So, hello everybody. Welcome to the Explorers of the International Federation of Public History. As I mentioned before, my name is Jimena Perry. I am the project manager for the Explorers, and today we have a very important guest. Today is with us the director of the National Human Rights Museums of Taiwan, Dr. Chun-Hung Chen, who will talk about how do the National Museum of Human Rights facilitates public engagement, a collaborative and educational central kitchen model. But please, I'm going to introduce properly Dr. Chen and also thank him for accepting this invitation. I know that he's a very busy scholar, so I appreciate the time he's devoting to us here. So Dr. Chen, as I mentioned, is the director of the National Human Rights Museum, and he's also a full-time professor at the Department of Political Science of Soochow University. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He has a master's degree in social science from the University of Chicago and a Ph.D. in political science from the London School of Economics. His main research fields are human rights theories, contemporary political philosophy, and international political theories. Dr. Chen pays particular attention to the issues of transitional justice and democratic deepening faced by the countries of the third wave of democratization. He received the Outstanding Teacher Award in 2007, 2010, and 2011 at Soochow University, and he has also devoted himself to the research and practice of deliberative democracy. Dr. Chen has served as director of Chang Fo Chuan Center for the Study of Human Rights from 2014 to 2017. He also was the director of the Taiwan Association for Truth and Reconciliation from 2011 to 2013, the director of the Taiwan chapter of Amnesty International from 2008 to 2010, a member of the Human Rights Protection Group of the Executive Yuan from 2009 to 2010. While serving as the director of the Taiwan Association for Truth and Reconciliation, Dr. Chen also participated in editing the book called The Struggle Between Remembering and Forgetting, a report of the stages of transitional justice in Taiwan, which is 3 volumes. And other books of his authorship include Human Rights, Justice, and the Politics of Difference, and Educational Justice. So, as you see, I mean, he is very, very important speaker we have today. We are honored to have him here. I'm going to ask the audience to keep your mics muted. We are going to proceed the following way. Dr. Chen is going to give us his talk. Then I will ask some questions, and if time allows it, we will open for the public. So thank you very much, and Dr. Chen, the floor is yours.
Okay. 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 Dear moderator, Dr. Perry, dear friends, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm honored to receive the invitation from the International Federation for Public History to talk to you about the white-tailored history of Taiwan, as well as the central kitchen model adopted by the National Human Rights Museum of Taiwan to facilitate communication and engagement with the public on difficult social issues. This year marks the 72th anniversary of the enforcement of martial law in Taiwan. Kuomintang party-controlled government enacted martial law in Taiwan on May 1949. The regime deployed special criminal court and secret service systems in the military, police force, and military police agency to detain, interrogate, torture, prosecute, incarcerate, and execute political dissidents. Okay. It also enforced relentless control and limitations on people's freedom of speech, press, and assembly. For example, rights like assembly, associations, march, and petitions were all banned. Taiwanese people will now allow to form new political parties, register, and circulate new newspapers. What's more, the publication of unapproved books and performance of unapproved songs were off-limits. It was until July 15, 1987, when the government lifted martial law, that Taiwan society started to inch toward a state of democracy and liberties. After the White Terror period, which lasts for over 38 years, we are still unable to get a hold of the actual number of victims. Although the enforcement of White Terror was highly institutionalized, the government only released a limited number of declassified documents to the public, not to mention that some of the records probably have already been destroyed. Our conservative estimate of the number of victims is more than 10,000, to say the least. During the White Terror period, civilians who committed offenses against internal and external security and related crimes were subject to trial only by court-martials. After the person was sentenced by a judge, the result of sentence will be submitted to the high-level officials as high as Chiang Kai-shek, who was the president and the commander-in-chief of the time. Many research has already pointed out that Chiang Kai-shek would express his dissatisfaction about the verdict made by the judge advocate and would even give order to punish this judge for this reason. Therefore, lower level officials will speculate superiors in inclinations and deliver heavier sentence. Also, a defendant's property would be entirely confiscated, while a proportion of that would be awarded to informers and prosecutors as reward. That, in addition to those dissidents who were suspected for treason, there is a considerable number of victims wronged, misjudged, and framed. Since the adoption of Resolution number 2758 by the United Nations in 1971, Taiwan was cast out by the UN. Taiwan, forgotten by the UN, became an international isolated orphan and was forced out of the international human rights regime. In the absence of the external supervision of the international human rights regime, Taiwan once set the record as the longest martial law regime in the world, with human rights violation as constant. The long-term imposition of the martial law led to the relatively stable period of the social development, while the government focused on the economic development. After the transition to a democratic and liberal system, the oppressive atmosphere in society seemed to have diminished, whilst the discussion of political sensitive topics often is shunned and end up in an impasse. Or people simply remember the past in a selective manner. Some people argue that democracy, freedom, and human rights value deter economic development and social stability and pit one against another. Therefore, campaigning for transitional justice in Taiwan is often interpreted as political retaliation. After 70 years of preparation, the National Human Rights Museum of Taiwan was officially inaugurated on International Museum Day in May 2018. It is the first human rights museum of the national level in Asia, built on the negative heritage set of the authoritarian regime. National Human Rights Museum has dedicated itself to the preservation of the traumatic history. As the focus of the museum of our time has already shifted from traditional collecting and archiving to meaningful and forward-looking social engagement and communications. Our responsibility goes beyond artifact collections or nostalgia recollection of the connection between human being and history. A more important role is to fulfill the social responsibility of a museum and focus on contemporary human rights issues. A museum has to facilitate social dialogue and convey cultural message while learning, practicing, and safeguarding human rights values together with society. Today, I would like to share with the audience how National Human Rights Museum operates through the central kitchen model in area of exhibition and education and become the nexus of human rights education network. The three core concepts of the central kitchen model are engagement, partnership, and collaboration. We make resources of the National Human Rights Museum publicly available to support our partners. Every year, National Human Rights Museum organizes new special exhibitions based on previous research results. The following year, we select the special exhibition of the year before, modularize the content, convert them into mobile panels, and make them available to school and cultural institutions. They can apply to use these materials. So far, we already have a mobile exhibition under 7 themes. The advantage of mobile exhibition is that educational institutions gain easy access to museum resources. Modularized exhibition offer great mobility and convenience of assembly, allowing history and human rights issues to reach different county and city, especially those townships with fewer educational resources. Also, National Human Rights Museum provides a list of the lecturers matching the themes of the list exhibitions. Institutions can invite families of victims of political persecution or scholars and experts to share their personal experience or professional knowledge. National Human Rights Museum organizes International Human Rights Film Festival every year. Museum staff, filmmakers, experts, and scholars jointly select film for the screening list. Both communities or schools can apply to a National Human Rights Museum for community or school screening of the films on the festival list, and hold post-screening talks and Q&As. The application fee for the screening is all covered by our museums. We only require the applicant to submit the result report, photos, and feedback after the event. The advantage of this is that everyone can make the most of their own space and invite the people in the community or school students to learn about human rights issues. This place can also be expanded into the learning space for human rights with local characteristics through the resources from the museum. National Human Rights Museum has been investigating and researching sites of the intelligence, police, and court-martial agency during the White Terror period and categorizing the injustice sites according to their functions, including interrogations, torture, trial, transit stations, incarcerations, execution, funeral parole, burial, disposal of remains, medical facilities, historical sites, and so on. We outlined and mapped out the landscape of the large-scale human rights violation by the state during the White Terror period. As urbanization progressed, many of these sites have been demolished and built over. The original looks of this space are no longer recognizable after transformations. The history and trauma carried by the venues gradually fade before they can be seen by the public or written down. In order to bring the history of the negative side back to the public's attentions, National Human Rights Museum launched a co-learning project in 2018, inviting artists, architects, designers, and creatives from different areas like community marketing, film and television, and public education to form a knowledge community with former political prisoners, their family, experts, and scholars. Together, they have visited and investigated negative sites, held intensive lectures, and co-learning seminars over several months. At the same time, we also organize human rights picture books workshops. Through the aforementioned co-learning model, we encourage these picture books artists to form a knowledge communities. Through the development program organized by the museum, these participants gradually pick up knowledge about collective trauma, difficult history, and the period of authoritarian regime. At the end of the project, they propose plans to raise the general public awareness of difficult issues. We will also exhibit this proposal or jointly work with them to produce human rights picture books. When some of these plans show potentials for further development, we will also convert them into teaching toolkits. First-line teachers and artists are involved in the process of designing and conceptualization of these toolkits. Some of the proposals are merchandise. For example, the negative heritage chocolate contains 99% cocoa and gives an extremely bitter taste. The proposal uses bitterness to give the general public a taste of the suffering experience. The choreography written on the verdict by the John Guy Shades is transcribed to a T-shirt to arouse young visitors' curiosity. Many of the execution grounds in the past are now turned into the beautiful estate. In Taiwan, the new estates are often advertised through the tissue paper package to draw the public's attention. One of the participants borrowed the form of this estate advertisement and replaced the information with negative heritage to draw people's attention. We also work with picture books authors on the publications of white terror or human rights relative titles. After the publication of literature picture books, we have educational promotional programs while training teachers. We aim to encourage people to learn about human rights issues through picture books. National Human Rights Museum works to plant human rights value deep in schools. We leverage picture books, theater, and cultural experience educational program to develop children audience base as a part of our effort to promote human rights education. As the white terror period is a quite distant past for younger generations, and many families feel the subject is too grave, it is more unlikely for them to come to the museum to learn about these issues. Therefore, we try to figure out a friendly way to reach out to children. In recent years, we have launched special exhibition on children's rights. We even organized a fair called Conventions on the Rights of the Child, giving children the central stage to speak their minds. We also had a curatorial workshop for children, where elementary school children can tell their own story through the exhibitions. Through the hands-on experience, the learning by doing approach empowers children to advocate their own rights. Last year, under exhibition theme, Welcome to the Rule of the Children's Rights, this kit selected polar bear, cat, leopard cat, and dolphin as the symbol for the four major children's rights: the right to survival, the right to participate, the right to be protected, and the right to develop. We hold Green Island Human Rights Festival at the Green Island White Terror Memorial Parks of National Human Rights Museum every year. In addition to working with artists, we also work with university art-related departments. Together with the Taipei National University of the Arts, we offer a program called Memory Politics and Artistic Interventions. Students from different art disciplines learned and discussed topics like the Taiwan history and transitional justice before they start their creative work in groups. Their works will be exhibited with other works of the Green Island Human Rights Festival. In doing so, we would like to encourage the young generation to commit to human rights issues through the artistic approach. The link below is the panorama virtual exhibition of the Green Island Human Rights Festival. You can find more about the exhibition if you are interested. About the hardship of articulating difficult issues, we recognize that it boils down the issue of the historical interpretations. As the result, in the face of a controversial history, interpretations and memory tend to go separate ways. As mentioned before, even to this date, there are still people regarding Chiang Kai-shek as a brilliant leader and longing for stability under the authoritarian regime. Some also hold that we should focus on the future rather than looking back this passage of history. Therefore, National Human Rights Museum has adopted art and culture as the medium for communication. Through the soft power of the arts, the museums invite the public to talk about the history of the White Terror period. As the negotiating process of dialogue and communication unfolds, we explore social common grounds, trade-off and compromise, and see if we can make conversation and reconciliation possible. The efforts of the transitional justice involve not only political and legal wars, but also a cultural movement of self-reflections. Lastly, let's pray that the global pandemic can be brought under control as soon as possible so that you can come to Taiwan and visit the National Human Rights Museum in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. It was really an amazing presentation. One of my questions was, it's related to the children's part, but I think you covered that very well in your presentation. And another thing that really caught my attention is the chocolate you mentioned, because I have heard before, like some strategies used in museums with sound and visuals, but I have never heard it with taste. And I think that can be like very innovative too, so people can taste that and feel the bitterness. I think that was like pretty awesome. My first question for you, Dr. Chen, is that I know that the museum is also a site of conscience. Can you explain us how the museum is a site of conscience and what is a site of conscience?
Okay. About the site of conscience, we usually use another legal terminology. We call the negative heritage. It refers to site where the site inflicted mass human rights atrocity. Most of these sites have already disappeared over time, and only few of them are preserved. For example, our museum, we managed to historical sites of injustice. Here we call the Jimei Memorial, White Terror Memorial Park. This site was used to be the military detention center. And in the 1960s, this site was also used by the Judge Advocate Department of Taiwan Garrison Command and the Bureau of the Military Law Ministry of the National Defense. This park still preserves the historical space of the military court and prison cell for the political prisoners. When visitors set foot in the park, they will see the historical space for trial and detentions. They all look entirely preserved. On this intact historical site, the National Human Rights Museum curates exhibitions and organize educational programs about the difficult issues. Many of the former political prisoners became our volunteers. As the witness of histories, they give young people their account of the persecution they experienced. For museum built on the site of the conscience, it is all about the connecting difficult history and contemporary human rights educations. It's for my opinion. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Chen. And my another question I have for you is why it is important to talk about violations of human rights? Wouldn't it be easier just to move on and leave that in the past?
I think from my perspective, I think showing scale of the past is not about the deepening the trauma and hatred. It is about the questioning injustice of the past. And in doing so, society as a whole can have the opportunity to collectively reflect on our culture. Human rights violations by the state are often subtle and invisible. So turning the invisible into the visible and having victims' story told and heard is the only way for our society to open up for conversation, understanding, and recognition. If we continue to shine the topic, we will miss the best opportunity for reconciliation. So turning a blind eye to the ugly truth of history is not going to make them go away. Only open discussion offers the path to move on and ensure the history will not happen again.
Yeah, like the phrase we have, like the nevermore
Yes.
that is so popular in Latin America, for example.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Dr. Chen, it seems like the museum professionals, I mean that for you in the museum, it's very important, the public engagement. Can you
Yes.
tell us about the reactions of the public and the visitors to the topics that you present them and the exhibits?
Okay. As I just mentioned, this difficult issue remains a contentious topic in our society. We have observed that the majority of the audience attracted our artistic and cultural approach are young people. The young people I meet, those under age 35, those who are already working or those who are still university or the high school students. As we also have special exhibition for children, we have quite many children as our loyal audience. While a lot of them were born after the end of martial law, they are not very familiar with this passage of history. In the meanwhile, they do not feel uncomfortable about this part of history either. So we also noticed a unique phenomenon. Because the news about the political and human rights climate in Hong Kong, many of our young audience would leave message supporting human rights in Hong Kong and commenting on the situation after they visit our exhibitions. Although the exhibition about the history of the White Terror would be a distant past for them, they would draw connection between the exhibition and contemporary human rights issue, question them and reflect on them.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. I know you mentioned this already, but I would like you to tell us a little bit more. How has the museum managed public engagement during the pandemic? How have you been able to maintain all the visitors interested and going to the museum?
Yeah. Okay. Actually, we have observed that the museum in another country has been devastated by the pandemic in comparison, because Taiwan has soundly brought the pandemic under control. So the number of the diagnosis case is only slightly over 1,000. Therefore, life here maintains pretty much the same as before. We are very lucky.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. We only ask visitors to wear masks at all times, take their body temperature, and sanitize their hands before they enter. Other than that, visitors are quite free to do what they like.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. You also mentioned, but I would like you also to please explain us a little bit more about the two memorial parks associated with the museum. Are they part of the museum itself, or how do they work? How do they interconnect?
Okay. Yeah. As I mentioned before, the White-Tailor was highly institutionalized system. So there are many memorial parks. In our museum, as I say, we manage two historical sites of injustice. One is the Jinmei White-Tailor Memorial Park. The other is the Green Island White-Tailor Memorial Park. The former was used for the prosecution and trial, and later for the incarceration. That is, the National Human Rights Museum has preserved historical sites with functions ranging from the personal arrest, interrogations, trial, sentencing to the implementation of court ruling. We preserved the whole historical space and use this name for exhibition, guided tours, and educational activities.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. And your opinion, do you think the exhibitions and research done at the museum have had an impact in positioning human rights in Taiwan?
Okay. After the long period of the authoritarian rule, actually, we just only began the journey of the transitional justice. So we just began. So a lot of truths await to be uncovered, especially when the face of the perpetrators are still unclear. So we gradually unveil historical truths through the exhibition and research to help the general public to reconnect with this passage of history. Unlike South Africa, we do not have an institution like a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which tour the country holding public hearings. Therefore, National Human Rights Museum chose to engage with wider society in conversation about difficult issues through artistic and cultural interventions. Starting conversation of this kind is critical to the development of human rights in Taiwan. We aspire to be more than just a place to tell story of the past. More importantly, we would like to find answers from the past to address contemporary human rights issues and guide us for the futures.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. I was also going to ask you about the children's engagement, but you covered that like pretty well. I know you are in a tight schedule, that you have only a certain amount of time for this presentation. So I want to ask you if you are willing to answer one or two questions from the audience, if there are some.
Um, I'm really sorry because I have to go to
Okay.
the ceremony initiated by the Transitional Justice Commission. So yes, I really apologize.
No, I knew that. I was just taking a shot because I knew I
Yeah.
had talked to Wensin about that, and we
Yeah.
know about that. So I just want to thank you for taking time
Mm.
to do this presentation. This video is being recorded and is going to be part of the collection of videos of the International Federation for Public History. I will send you a copy as soon as it's ready, and it will be circulating for social media. And thank you very much. I appreciate it. I enjoyed it very, very much. I learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.